I just feel like House of the Dragon is even more frustrating, I think, because the second season ended so poorly. I thought it was a good
tricking me back into that.
That's not on purpose. That's definitely so. Look, I'm not an expert, but just from what I see there, I don't think that's how they wanted that season to end. I think something happened budgetary wise or like runtime wise. They just couldn't squeeze it in. Like, surely they didn't mean to end season 2 on not even a cliffhanger. It was such bullshit. Yeah,
my wife was a little pissed about this season. She said that there were like the scene with the baby. I won't get into spoilers, but the scene with the baby in the books was way more graphic and brutal. And I mean, she says that the whole story that the House of the Dragon is being adapted from is just as, if not crazier than like the Game of Thrones, like the running story there. And she was super disappointed with this season. So
yeah, I mean, part of it for me,
for like 2 years. So yeah.
So initially, I was kind of part of the Taylor team, where it's like, you fucked me over last time. So I spent 8 years watching your horse shit, no more. But I jumped on board, and I've enjoyed it thus far. However, I will say,
you haven't been rug pulled yet.
I haven't been hot to it yet. No. But it's coming. And even if it doesn't, I'm not that invested though in this as I was in Game of Thrones. And something about knowing that Game of Thrones is what comes after this. Every time that they mention to another character, the king, I can't recall his name, but he's mentioning to his daughters, oh, the great winter's coming and the snows will come fucking 500 feet tall. And it's like, dude, I've seen it. It wasn't that big of a deal. They sent a 14-year-old girl in with a magic knife. Yeah, that knife right there, the one you got. She takes care of it. No big deal. Let's just train an army of 14-year-old girls. That's his fucking
it's his kryptonite.
Be warned, if you go back and rewatch Game of Thrones, because I did that this year for some reason. I just felt like, let's go back and watch it.
Let's be sad.
The entire from first to 8th season. There are massive House of the Dragon spoilers just casually dropped. Like Joffrey drops, and I'm like just a really massive spoiler in season 4.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So just be careful if you ever go back and watch, which it doesn't.
Well, everybody. All right. So this I suppose is a spoiler, but the whole point is that all of the dragons are about to be killed off, so that there are no dragons in Game of Thrones. There are no dragons in Game of Thrones. Where they all go?
There's 3.
They all died. They're all fucking dead.
It's less on the nose than that. It's like a major character dying.
Oh, sure, that's
in a really graphic way. So
really, I wonder what you're talking about. I have this question for you, Hutch. I rewatched Game of Thrones, and on rewatching, I liked it a lot more than I did the first time, because, in my opinion, especially like the second half of the whole seasons, whatever 5 through 8, I would wait all year for the next ones to come out. It felt like it was excruciating, and sometimes it was a year and a half, and then there'd only be 8 episodes or 6 episodes. And if those 6 episodes weren't all bangers, if they weren't all fucking Marvel Endgame, I was like, this sucks. Oh my god, nothing happened this week. I just watched a 50-minute show and I could sum it up in 45 seconds because not a darn thing happened. But when you can watch like 3 in a night and you just binge watching Game of Thrones, the pacing is better. And when you don't need all 6 episodes to be great because there's another one queued up, I liked it more on second watching.
I mean, I still think people who have never watched it should probably watch it all the way through, just because even though I wouldn't recommend it. The last, I don't recommend 2 seasons in particular are pretty rough, but there are like definitely redeeming qualities to those seasons. It's not all bad. There's just problems with pacing, obviously, and the D&D, they were getting ready to go off and do Star Wars, so they checked the fuck out.
And prophetic fulfillment, like all of those prophecies early on in the first 5 seasons that were supposed to be these like calamitous, like end of days bringing things occurring, or like a righteous emergence of a figure like Jon as Azor Ahai, like none of that mattering. Just being a bunch of bunk is exactly why, like, I've never rewatched. I was so into Game of Thrones. As soon I watched like the first 2 episodes at a friend's house, season 1, like when it was coming out, and immediately I bought all the books that were available, which is almost the same number as are available today, and read through all those and was so excited and was like, I can't wait for the final book to come out. I can't wait to see how they wrap this up. There are so many tendrils out in the open that need to be tied. What's going to happen? And then when they just spit in our face with Arya killing the Night King and Jaime's entire character development arc being undone because of a 15-second conversation with Cersei near the end. Like, it was so frustrating.
I defend that. That's one thing I will defend. That's one thing I will defend.
Let's hear the defense.
It's a through line. Like, he got his redemption, but in the end, it kind of reminded me of like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Like the major lesson of that movie is like, no matter how toxic it can get sometimes people are just drawn to each other. And I felt like that was kind of the take with him. Like, even though he had this like really beautiful storyline with Brienne of Tarth and all that, which was really great. Like, his arc was just one of my favorite arcs in the entire show. At the end of the series, he's still like right by Cersei, and
Hancock did it first.
And like the collapse of the empire that they were trying.
Bad writing too.
But he had learned so much over those seasons with Brienne and all those other surrounding characters, and it seemed like he had changed legitimately multiple times. Like the scene with Brienne on the bridge comes to mind. Like, there's so much that he did to demonstrate he wasn't faking it. He had become a different guy. He'd been humbled by the loss of his hand. He remapped where he fit in the world, and then for all of that to culminate with him basically going, "Nah, I'm the same as I was 7 years ago," and then die was like, I hated that so much.
I hated I hated all of it. Someone asked me recently who'd never seen it if they should watch it in our Discord, and I was like, yeah, but stop at season 5. Like after season when
they're not going to be able to stop though.
No, they won't, because they're going to be addicted.
But the issues I have aren't the same ones that you guys have. Like, I get it, the prophecies never really meant much, and like I get it, but my issue was Jon Snow went from a character that was a good like 6 or 7 out of 10 clever, right? He was never Littlefinger, but he wasn't a retard until the last couple seasons, at which point he really was. His language just got like, all his scenes with I don't know, I don't do that, whatever. He became these like one-liner things. That frustrated me a lot.
His brain didn't have oxygen for like 20ty minutes. We're surprised he could talk.
What if he came back retarded? That would have been such a good storyline.
It was
little person is Tyrion, right?
Ygritte.
Tyrion was supposed to be so clever, and that was all gone. Dany got stupid. That was frustrating. You know, she was never the master tactician, but she became a full-on.
Her arc was fine too. It was just they didn't flesh it out. Like, they didn't have enough time. Like, I do kind of like it culminating with her essentially being just the same as the Mad King. It's just they tried to, and there are signs when you go, especially when you go back and rewatch it. Her character learns the lesson over and over again that when she tries to be like just and kind, she's punished for it. And when she's ruthless, she's rewarded for it. And so they kind of like sprinkled these breadcrumbs to line up that switch, but it was just so jarring the way they did it. Even with all that development, it just wasn't enough, because it seemed like in the span of really like 2 episodes, she went from someone who could be like a righteous ruler of the 7 kingdoms or whatever. And then, you know, then it was just,
I agree with you there on Daenerys. Like, she was always kind of a shitty ruler. She was overly emotional. Like, even the way she and her followers framed the freeing of the Unsullied was a little ridiculous in the books and the show, where it was like, all right, you guys, I just killed your master, which means you totally belong to me. But like, I want to know you guys like actually want to fight for me. And then that guy's like, we are castrated slaves who have been psychically tortured for our entire lives. The thought of not obeying you is foreign to me. And she's like, well, then I guess blame free. Like, so then just takes.
Have you heard of Westeros?
Yeah, have you heard of Westeros? Like,
and there was a lot of like forced kind of Marvel style humor, especially in the last two seasons, that really kind of got under my skin. Like, the humor was pretty clever, I thought, for the first 4 or 5 seasons, and then it just got really kind of corny. Like the scene.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the scene where he does a drinking game. It's Tyrion and the guy from the Unsullied, and then his like love interest. Yeah, and then they all do like a drinking game, and there's just like a lot of really forced, weird humor there. And
yeah.
The scene Taylor was talking about before the topic changes. That was a point where Dany was actually pretty clever. You know, there she was trading, I think, dragons for the Unsullied army. And then the dragons had loyalty to her, and they burnt the guy that she sold them to. And then suddenly they're hers again. And it was this double cross that season 8 Dany was too dull for.
But it's like it wasn't to me an impressive double cross in the same way that, like, if I have a snarling pit
but it was though, she spoke their language and they didn't know it. She revealed there at the end that, like, oh, you thought I was the stupid foreign girl. I speak your language and 4 more.
Yeah.
And then I like that was
I
the
get
moment.
that. The idea, like, it was really the slavers, I guess, being retarded, because like he was being a smug idiot and being like, this is stupid girl think that she will get my Unsullied without proffering dragon. And then at the end, it's just like, no, I'm going to burn you with this dragon. Like, and the guy's shocked. That never occurred to them that could happen. Didn't occur. If I come to Kyle's house and I'm like, Kyle, I mean to trade you many slaves for your ravenous pit bull. And then I get there and your pit bull's snarling at me and doing that. And then you go, pit bull, attack. And I get mauled. That's on me.
Sure.
That's on me for showing up. Like
there's no little fingers in that negotiation. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But at least she was the 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. I said she was. She spoke a language. She kept that secret. She kept her cards close to her chest, and in the end, she got everything at the same time. Come later, she's just strategic moron.
That was a good episode.
And she was like a moral, like a good slave owner.
Like our family.
I just felt like
arc, I feel like, was one of the better ones, and it resolved really well too, because he was trying to do this like scheme to divide Sansa and Arya, and then there was that twist. I thought that was done really well. Of all the arcs that they did in the 8th season, I thought that were like rushed and not that great. That one was actually pretty fucking good.
It was also pretty good. I don't know her name. Lady Mormont, maybe? She's the little
little Mormont.
Yeah.
She plays Ellie in The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't have a bad scene, I don't think.
No, she had that mean little scowly face. It was fucking cute as shit. When the fucking troll what is it? The giant picks her up and she's all bloody and she's just like, like stabs him with the
fucking eye. She had so much gravitas, and she was like 12.
Yeah, she's little
11.
bitty.
She was so good.
Yeah. This is more of like a childlike critique in what I wanted to see in the battles.
How many men come from Bear Lake? 43. Like, they fought so hard in negotiations to get those 43 men. She's like, each man from Bear Lake's 100 from the south.
Did you guys wish that more giants were involved?
No, I was happy. I felt like they did a great job. So like,
if the North would have attacked a century earlier, they would have bowled over the entire. It wouldn't have been a contest, because part of the lore is like, I think it was relatively recently the giants started dying out in mass up there. Like, it was kind of like one of those Tolkien-esque things where like their magic was dying, kind of like the elves or whatever. But like, the only reason they even had a chance is because they had like 3 of those guys. Imagine if they have like 300 of those dudes. It's over.
They did they're overpowered. They're like a lightsaber or something in that universe. So it was good that they used 1-1 or whatever his name was to have that crazy episode where he goes on a tear and then he dies heroically and it's like, all right, we're all out of giants. Everyone's clear.
And we're all out of budget. And we're thinking about a Star Wars
Hodor moment at the end.
But wait, didn't 1-1 come back as a zombie later?
As a zombie 1-1, right? Yeah. Which was a great one. Which was also a good scene. What I always wanted and I always predicted, and no one else did, was that Jamie had
no one else did,
because there was entire YouTube channels that did
tens of millions of people watch these shows.
No, really, no one else
do this.
No, it didn't happen. I
want to hear what it was.
I thought Jamie Lannister would be training in secret with his left fucking hand, and there'd be that moment where somebody was like humiliating him or embarrassing him in front of the court, like, have Kingslayer. Oh yes, the great swordsman Kingslayer. Come.
Him up.
And they like make him like sword fight to embarrass him in some way, thinking that it's going to be good to humiliate him. But in secret, he's just spent the last 8 years just training with his left hand. Like,
I also thought that was going to happen.
Did you guys know that Cersei, the actress that plays Cersei, and the actor who, I forgot the character's name.
Lena Headey.
What's her name?
Lena Headey, I think.
Yeah, no. So that's her real name, but the actor who played the guy who trained Jamie, who was like aligned with Tyrion. Do you remember that character?
I do.
Oh yeah,
Bronn. Exactly. So they in real life actually used to date, and I guess they had a horrible breakup. So they said that they stipulated that they never wanted to do any scenes together. I think they only did like one in the entire series, and that was at the very end when there was that council when they were figuring out like how to do an alliance against the undead.
That must have been fun for Bronze Actor, because if I recall, he was a real cunt in that scene around the table where he's like, "You foolish lords think everything will go swimmingly." Getting drunk, making fun of
Hetty's a good
everyone.
actor. She was cool in 300. She was great in Dread. She was Mama in Dread, which is such a cult classic. That's one of my favorite shooter movies of all time. I wish that had taken off. I'm a big Carl Urban fan too, so I wanted Dread to be big.